watching, say hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's open up to share our screen. We have a lot prepared for tonight. We'll see if we can get a chance to do everything. Okay, I apologize for being late. I had to. Good evening, Murli. Good evening, TJ. Good evening, Heidi. Good evening, everyone that's watching us. Oops. Oopsies. 1 second. And I'll touch the screen. There you go. Don't get dizzy watching. We'll stabilize. 1 second. There we go. Okay. Looks dangerous over there, huh? It's not falling down. It's staying there, so it's good. It's moving. They're gonna get dizzy watching. What? I feel like we're out in the Florida. I had a purpose. I just wanted to move the screen, and once I touched it, then it moved. There you go. Okay, now it's not moving, right? Now it's not moving. Okay, I had to go to point to my family. My wife's family is here. We were supposed to have dinner at 5. Didn't start till 6:30 till they got to the house. We got my kids home. They have school tomorrow morning, but we're ready to start. So good evening, and if you're watching on my personal page, you can say hi. Oh, hello, Kim. Hello, Gail. We're on. Okay, so let's begin. Tonight's learning, as always, is a memory of Yitzchak Tzvi ben Yosef, as the Neshama should have on elevation. We'll go straight to the story. How's that?
It's all good. It's all good.
You can tell I'm totally not there.
And let it go.
Okay, you ready, guys? So, tonight we're going to be beginning a series on Pirkei Avos, on ethics of our fathers, which is of the 60 volumes of the Mishnah, 59 of them are the technical details, the laws, the obligations of a Jew, what they must do, and what they need to do, what they're not allowed to do, etc. The one volume of ethics of our fathers that's not about the laws that we're required to do, but about the laws that a person should still do even though they're not required, is the 6 chapters of Pirkei Avot, of the ethics of our fathers, that are the ethics. These are not the things we need to do, these are the things we should do. Not because we're obligated to, but because we want to be a mensch. We want to have the values and the ethics that will make us behave in the way that a Jew should behave. And so there's many classes on Pirkei Avos and many commentaries. In our style, in my style, I'm not going to do a class on Pirkei Avos. I'm going to do a class on a character within the chapter. It's not going to be a historical character that has a name, although we will have some very interesting history tonight. It's not going to be a historical person. It's going to be a character trait that every one of us possibly is carrying and needs to deal with in our own lives. And so each week I will choose from the chapter one character, one behavior that we will discuss and analyze in depth, how to come to, obviously the structure with the text of the Mishnah, but that will just be the foundation upon which we will build. So let me begin tonight with a story, a pretty powerful story. During World War I in Jerusalem, and again, thank you to all those who are watching from all over the world. Thank you for joining us and for saying hi. Thank you. I appreciate seeing your names. Alan, Shira, Stephanie, Luis, thank you. So during World War I, there was, in the land of Israel, which was then under the British occupation, there was a very difficult time financially. Economically, it was very hard. The Jews were struggling financially to have food, to have any money to put food on the table was very difficult. There was one Jew, a Mohel actually, a very respected member of the community. He was a Mohel, he was a rabbi, and he somehow had a gold Napoleon. Napoleon was a gold coin that was very valuable. It was the most valuable form of currency, was a gold Napoleon. And he obviously kept this hidden as a treasure, safe in the back of a drawer somewhere. That was his emergency fund. This was his, if anything would ever to happen to him, this gold Napoleon was literally his entire life savings. One day he comes home And to his shock and to his dismay, he sees that the drawer in which he had hidden the Napoleon was wide open. It's wide open. He runs to the dresser, looks inside, and sure enough, the Napoleon is gone. The coin is gone. The coin is gone. He freaks out. Where could the coin be? He starts screaming and shouting, "Where's the coin?" And soon enough, he finds out, or he sees the guilty face of his little 4-year-old son or 5-year-old son, a young boy. I don't know exactly how old he was. This young boy had opened up the drawer, had seen the coin, started screaming at his son, "What did you do with the coin?" He had gone to the candy store to buy a candy. I don't know if it was a Laffy Taffy, if it was, I don't know what candies they had in Jerusalem during World War I, but a piece of bubble gum, a piece of pretzel, I don't know. He bought a candy. Now, obviously, a gold Napoleon is worth a lot more than. So he asks his boy, "Where's the change?" And the little boy says, "I got no change. I gave him a coin, and I got my candy." So he goes running to the shopkeeper who ran this little candy store and said, "My son brought you a gold Napoleon. You gave him a Laffy Taffy. Give me the change. I want my 990. I want the rest." So okay, he paid for you. He gave him the candy, but give me the change. And the shopkeeper says, "I promise you, your son only gave me I don't know what the small coins were, the shekel, whatever shekel coin. It wasn't a shekel back then, whatever. Agura, but probably wasn't Israeli currency. This is in World War I. Whatever, he gave me a small coin, whatever the small coins were worth. Whatever, he gave me a nickel. This is impossible. I know that my son opened the drawer. The only coin in that drawer was a gold Napoleon. There were no other coins in that drawer. The gold Napoleon is missing. My son told me that he took the coin out of the drawer and came and he bought a candy. So I know that you got my gold Napoleon, and I'm demanding the change for my gold Napoleon and the Laffy Taffy." And the innkeeper said, "I promise you, I swear to you, I didn't get a gold Napoleon. I only got a small 5-cent coin." And of course, this rabbi is beside himself. He lost his entire life savings. He starts to threaten him and says, "If you don't return the coin back to me, I'll ruin your name in town. I'm going to tell them to stop shopping here." And the shopkeeper says, "I promise you I didn't take it. I'm innocent." Obviously, I didn't convince the rabbi, this mohel. And he started to tell his friends and his neighbors how this shopkeeper was a thief and a ganav and terrible person. He stole his entire life savings. He took advantage of a little boy. The little boy came in with a little coin. The little boy doesn't know the difference between a gold Napoleon and a shiny pen. He doesn't know the difference. And he ripped him off, and now he's taking advantage of me. He won't return the coin. And sure enough, who does everyone start believing? The Moel, the respected member of the community. Very soon, people stopped going to this candy store to go buy stuff. And very soon, the candy store went bankrupt. He lost his store. He closed his store. He was forced to leave town and move somewhere else and start again from scratch. 3 years go by. 3 years go by, and one day this mohel gets a letter in the mail, and inside is an unsigned letter and a gold Napoleon. And the unsigned letter says, 3 years ago or before, I saw your son playing with a gold Napoleon. And I was in such a state of desperation and hunger that I was like desperate. I saw a little kid with a coin. I said, "Let me see your coin." And I didn't realize I switched his Napoleon for a nickel, for a 5-cent piece. And I switched it. He didn't know the difference. I just let me see it. And then I heard what happened, that he went to I figured a kid's playing with a Napoleon. It must be a very wealthy family. If your kids are playing with the gold Napoleons, they can afford to lose one gold Napoleon. Me, I can barely feed my kids. My kids are home crying for food. Here's a kid playing with the gold Napoleon. Your family could afford it. Then I heard what happened. And I heard about I was too embarrassed to come forward. My family was desperate. I already spent some of that money, already buying food when I heard the whole story. And I didn't even have a gold Napoleon to return anymore. And so I don't want to say my name, but I've been waiting for 3 years. I've been saving up so I can finally pay you back the gold Napoleon that I took from your son all those years earlier. So he got his gold Napoleon back. But the damage that was done to this innocent shopkeeper, his business, his reputation, his very, very sense of worth and dignity, the emotional toll that this must have taken on his life, on his health, was tremendous, and obviously was irreparable, unredeemable, and the Moab felt terrible. He went to give this gold Napoleon to the person that he had accused of stealing it, but even giving him the gold Napoleon at that point in your life, it was too late. The damage had already been done. So this, my friends, is the introduction to a very, very important Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, both in this week's chapter and in next week's chapter. If you're watching on my personal page, or if you're sitting here in the room, you can read the text. Or if you open up a Pirkei Avos, chapter 1, Mishnah 6. Chapter 1, Mishnah 6. A famous teaching, one of the most famous teachings, perhaps, of all of Pirkei Avos. I don't know if I can judge one of the most famous teachings, but I would guess, if I had to say what are the top 10 teachings, this would be one of the top 10. I would guess. Yeshua ben Pirkei and Nitai Ha'arbei, the two rabbis. I'm not going to go through the whole. I don't want to get distracted on the structure of the Masorah, the tradition. Maybe if we do a second round, maybe. Here's the part I want to focus on. Yeshua ben Pirkei Omer, Joshua, the son of Pirkei, would say 3 things. We're going to focus on the third. But what are the 3 things he would say? Aseh l'charav, make for yourself a master, a teacher, which is a very, very important message in and of itself. A person can never think, I'm smart enough, I don't need anyone else to help me and guide me and teach me. I can go online, I can watch a class myself, I can read a book, today, do it yourself, right? You know the joke when the guy goes into the bookstore, says, where's the self-help section? So the bookkeeper says, if I tell you where the self-help section is, I'll defeat the whole purpose of self-help, right? So today I have enough self-help books, I don't need rabbis, I don't need mentors, I don't need teachers. So Yeshua ben Pirkei says, number 1, no matter who you are, no matter how smart you are, even I have a rabbi. And you need to have a rabbi who is your teacher, your master, who can keep you on the straight path. Again, we're going to leave that for another time. Second thing he says, acquire for yourself a friend. And notice the word acquire. Acquire means you got to work. Friendships are not always given to an silver platter and just, I don't mean social friends on Facebook. Friends on Facebook, with all due respect to all the beautiful people on Facebook watching, Facebook friends is not what we're talking about in Pirkei Avos. We mean 1 or 2 real friends. And again, maybe this could also be a class of its own. That was actually a very good class. What defines a real friend? Maybe if we do this another cycle, that could actually be a very good topic. But what we're going to focus on is the third statement for tonight. They have a done as kol ha'adam l'kafschos, which means you should judge every man to the side of merit. To the side of merit. In more simple English, judge everyone favorably, with a good eye, judge everyone favorably. In more ancient times, they would have a scale, right? And the scale had 2, I don't know what the word is in English, 2 buckets, 2 whatever. So 2 plates. So when you judge someone, always put extra weight on the merit side so that the verdict will always tilt to the side of merit and not to the other side. On a similar vein, we see in the next chapter, in chapter 2, a similar Mishnah. This is from Hillel, who would also say 3 very important things. Don't separate yourself from the community. Don't believe in yourself till the day you die. And do not judge your fellow until you have stood in his place. There's differences between these 2, but the common denominator of these 2 teachings is either don't judge a person at all until you've been in his place, or when you judge favorably. Basically, in simple English and more modern vernacular, innocent until proven guilty. Until you know the whole story, don't judge. We don't know what a person went through. We don't know all the details of their life story. And therefore, judging others is something which is always 100% forbidden. Today in the American legal system, we have this idea that you're innocent until proven guilty. And here is really where we get it from Ethics of Our Fathers. That when you judge, assume they're innocent. Right away, tilt the scales. Don't be impartial. Don't judge and say, I'm being impartial. That's not a quality in Judaism. If you're judging a financial lawsuit, maybe. But when you're judging a person, you're judging your friends, and this is human nature. We are constantly judging people. Of course, you don't ever judge. That would be denying our human nature. And actually, sometimes it's important to judge because we need to defend ourselves, we need to protect ourselves from dangerous people, from predators, from manipulative people. When you judge, right away, tilt the scale to the side of merit. Innocent until proven guilty. Now, why is this one of the most important Mishnahs? One of the top Mishnahs? Because we're all guilty of judging people. Every one of us judge. As I already said it very briefly, I want to explain more. It's human nature to judge. It's part of the way we were hardwired to be defensive and protect ourselves. That we're constantly, every single second, making hundreds, if not thousands, of judgments every single second. Are you about to punch me in the face? Are you about to punch me? Like, my brain is looking around the room and I'm making sure that all of you are sitting safely, nicely, calmly. No one's angry at me, no rotten tomatoes, right? Exactly. Because if the roof would start falling down, in a second I would get it, and I'll start making judgment in a second. That's the way we're wired to be. And yet when it comes to judging people, even though it's easy to judge people negatively, in fact, it's more natural to judge someone harshly, negatively, than it is to judge them positively. That's just a fact. Nevertheless, tilt the scale, go out of your nature, actively put weight on the cup, on the plate of merit to tip the scales in their favor. That's very, very special. Now, it's always interesting to also know who says this Mishnah. Because knowing the context of a Mishnah, knowing the context of why a rabbi says this, helps you appreciate the fullness of what they're saying. And if you know the story of Rabbi Shua ben Prachia, he lived at a very, very difficult time for the Jewish people. He lived at a time right before the second temple was destroyed. Time of Yanai, King Herod. It was a very, very bad time. We're going to talk more about his story soon. I'm going to tell you something crazy soon. But now I'm going to just give you the basic history. He lived at a time when you had a tremendous civil war between what's called the Prushim and the Tzedaikim. The Tzedaikim were the Sadducees in English, were those that didn't believe in the oral traditions of the rabbis. So not only were the Jews facing threats from the Romans and from the external enemies of the Jewish people, internally there were many, many Jews that were actively doing what they could to destroy rabbinic Judaism, to destroy the traditions of the priests and of the temple, etc., etc. And there was a time of tremendous infighting amongst the Jewish people. And at that time of infighting was a time when it would be very, very easy for Yeshua and Brachia to say, these are wicked people. These are people that are actively committed to a theology that is against Judaism. And just like today, where we're very quick to judge people who have an ideology different than our own, and they're very quick to say, well, if you voted for this person, then obviously you're a bad person, and you're a dumb, stupid idiot, right? You all know the rest of the, whichever party they voted for, just add the other words that go with it. And we all right away start judging based on ideologies, and based on theologies, and based on behaviors, and we start judging people. And you should know that we're not the first people to live in turbulent times in history. History repeats itself. There was once a time when Yeshua ben Prachia was a rabbi in Israel. And the land of Israel was not only facing external threat from the Romans, it was facing internal threat. And many Jews, most Jews in Israel would tell you that it was the other Jews that were destroying Judaism. Just like now. The Perush and the Pharisees would tell you that the Sadducees are destroying Judaism, and the Sadducees would tell you that the old-fashioned rabbis are making up a new version of Judaism. It's not authentic to what God told us. And they're destroying it. And therefore, Yeshua ben Prachia is establishing this precedent that if you hear that someone sinned, you hear someone did something wrong, don't judge right away. First, tip the scales for good. Yeah.
The second sentence of Mishnah 4 is causing me some consternation. It's counterproductive. I mean,
the second Mishnah, the second line.
The second is do not believe in yourself until the day you die.
So, Do not believe in the second Mishnah we quoted from chapter 2, Mishnah 4 says, do not believe in yourself until the day you die, which basically means that even, and there's actually a story that goes with that too, with a man called, he was a Kohen Gadol until 80 years old. It's not Shimon HaTzadik. His name just let me know. I'm thinking Shimon HaTzadik, but I don't think that it's Shimon HaTzadik. I think it's someone else. So maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't remember who it is. He was a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, until I think he was 80 years old. When he was 80 years old, he became a Sadducee. So the Rabbi said, don't believe in yourself until the day you die, meaning don't think, I'm already an old, cocker, and I'm not going to sin. I already know what I'm doing. I'm not going to mess up. You're never immune from the wicked tricks and the sly machinations of the evil inclination inside us. That's what it's saying. Okay. So how do we understand this teaching to judge favorably? And I want to repeat, it doesn't say don't judge people. Because often people say to others, don't judge. To say don't judge is to go against human nature. It's like saying don't look. You know how I tell you don't look? You know what you really want to do? Look. If I say don't look over there, it makes you want to look. When you say don't judge, it's like you're asking for a Supreme Court ruling. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work. The rabbis are not saying don't judge others. And sometimes people say don't judge others. That's what they're saying. They're saying when you judge with a bias of innocence until proven guilty, but with a bias of innocence. When you judge, don't judge till you're in their place, meaning recognize you don't know the whole story. What does it mean not till you're in their place? Till you know the whole story, till you know their experience. Do we ever really know someone else's story? Do we ever know what shoes someone else is wearing? We have no idea. There's no one in the world that knows what shoes someone else is wearing. They might look pretty on the top, but you never know what's inside. If there's thorns inside, if there's holes inside, if there's water inside. It could be very fancy shoes, and you're slushing in water, and every step is another reminder that, you stepped in the puddle. And every step is another trauma, another trigger, another, So we don't know. And that's what it means. Don't judge till you're in their place. When you judge, understand that you don't know the whole story. There's more than you can see. So what's the source for this idea? The source is from a verse. It's a verse in the book of Vayikra. We're going to read it in 3 or 4 weeks or so. We're going to read a verse that says, B'tzedek tishbot amisacha, which means, B'tzedek, in righteousness, you shall judge your friend. So what does the Talmud say about this verse, that in righteousness you shall judge your friend? Let's see what the Talmud says. Let's turn to the Talmud, Shavuos, page 30, the first side. The Talmud actually brings 2 explanations of how to read this verse. We're going to focus only on the second because that's what's relevant to us. The first is beautiful but not relevant. It says, B'tzedek tishbot amitecha, the sages taught me, but in righteousness shall you judge your colleague. What does it mean in righteousness you should judge him? That you should judge another person favorably. Here's the biblical source. When it says you should judge b'tzedek in righteousness, doesn't only mean that you should judge fairly. The first interpretation of the Talmud is don't let one stand and one, don't let the plaintiff stand and the defendant sit. Don't let the plaintiff speak a long time and the defendant can only speak short. Make sure that they both treated equally without any intimidation, etc. But the second interpretation is that when you judge with righteousness. Judge favorably. And then we bring another teaching. Rav Yosef teaches from the verse, but in righteousness shall you judge your colleague. In the Hebrew, the word is amitecha. You can see that in the Hebrew. You see the word amitecha? Yeah, you should judge your friend. But what does the word amitecha mean? Im she'itcha. The word amitecha could be im itcha, with you. Meaning, who's the person that you're allowed to judge? The person who is with you in observance of Torah and mitzvot. Try to judge him favorably. So what Rav Yosef is doing over here is he's giving us a tremendous caveat. What's the caveat that he's giving us? You guys are smart. What is Rav Yosef doing to the statement of the Talmud? Talmud said that you should judge a person with righteousness, meaning that you should judge him with favor. Comes Rav Yosef and says, who should you judge with favor? Your friend. What does it mean, your friend? The person who's on the same spiritual level as you. A friend doesn't mean, again, that they live on the same block as you, in the same neighborhood. A friend means someone that understands you, that you're on a more or less similar place in life, where you understand each other's journey. Itcha, with you. That's what a friend is, right? A good friend, a true friend is someone that more or less, to some extent, has the same experience, is a similar place in their life. It's hard for a married mother to be a friend with a 15-year-old boy. I mean, besides that, we're not okay for other reasons. But I'm saying, maybe with a 75-year-old man. How's that? Okay, because you don't understand each other. You're dealing with different challenges in your life. Different, one's dealing with preschool trauma, one's dealing with doctors, and. So Rav Yosef, when he makes this condition, this detail, this clause, it says, don't judge what kind of person? A friend of yours. Someone that's on your level, more or less. What is Rav Yosef doing? He's limiting the teaching over here. He's limiting the ruling to only apply to someone that's your friend. Someone that's more or less on a similar level to you. So a person who's already proved that they're righteous, they prove they also care and they have good values, and they care about doing the right thing, and they care about Torah and mitzvot. So such a person, you see them doing something that seems like a sin, don't judge them. Don't hold it against them. What about a guy that's a known good-for-nothing, shlamazel, shlemiel?
The best defense is a good offense.
Meaning? What does it mean? The best defense is a good offense? The best offense is a good defense?
The best defense is a good offense.
Okay, but Rav Yosef, when he says, Stephanie got it, when he says, don't judge your friend, he's limiting this teaching of judging favorably to someone that has proven themselves to be worthy of your favorable judgment. Correct? If you look back at the ethics of our fathers, if you look back at the teaching in Pirkei Avos that we started tonight's conversation with, does Yeshua ben Prachia agree with the first way of the Gemara, or is he agreeing with this condition of Rav Yosef? I'm not going to tell you. Read the text. What does he say? What are the words? I'll share the screen again so you can see the text. What did Yeshua ben Prachia say in the 6th Mishnah of chapter 1 of Ethics of our Fathers? V'heve done es kol ha'adam l'kaf schos, which means you should judge every man to the side of merit. What does it mean to judge every man? Every man, including the creepy guy you can't stand, including the nunnik that makes you crazy, including the guy that never stops talking in the back of the synagogue and is never quiet during the rabbi's sermon. Not here, of course. You know what I'm saying? That guy, or that woman, it could be a woman. I'm trying to pick on the guy. You know what I'm saying? The guy that is a shlemazel and a nunnik. Every person. He's not saying your friend. He says, kol ha'adam. Every person. The word Adam is translated as man, but it's a very weak translation because every human being comes from Adam, so it means every human. Every person. We don't say person. The word man or person is not genderly correct anymore. So every person. Every person. So how do you understand that? So the Rebbe gives a beautiful, beautiful teaching on these two words, kol ha'adam. The whole man. What does it mean, judge the whole man? How do many of us often judge people?
Based on one thing.
Based on one thing that they do, or one thing that they did, or one thing that they said, excellent, or one thing that you think that they said, or one thing you think that they did, or that you think they would do. If they did, then they would, then they did, then, right? That's kind of how we often judge people, not based on who they are, but based on a thing they did, or a thing they said, or a thing we think that they did when we think they said what they think they did. Says the Rebbe, don't judge the sin. Don't judge the action. Judge the person. Not just the person, kol ha'adam. All of the person. The word kol means all. Judge all of him or her. Judge this person in their entirety, in their complete identity, in their complete existence. Yes, this person made a mistake, assuming that they really did make a mistake, assuming that that we actually know correctly what they did and we know why they did it, and what they did was wrong, and we are right in assuming that they did the wrong thing. But don't judge them based on what they did. Judge them on all of them. Judge them on who they are, on kol adam. So the mistake of the person reflects only a small part of their personality, a small part of their identity. And when we judge all of them, we're not judging by one thing they did in one moment of frustration or desperation or hunger or tiredness, but rather we're judging them on all of them. Right? Correct? I'll give you a very personal example. Imagine you would judge me, what kind of person I am, the way I was 45 minutes ago when I came in, flying from the turnpike to get here on time, and I knew that I didn't have the stick for the phone, and the webcam wasn't working, right? So you can judge in that 1 minute, or you can judge and sit for the whole hour. Oh, it's a whole different story. In life, we get one picture. Very often, we get one moment of a person, one interaction, and even if we are correctly interpreting that interaction, that's only one moment of the person. It's not the person. It's not all the person. That's what Yeshua ben Pirkei is saying to us. Judge all the person favorably. Even if he sinned, that's not who he is. He is a beautiful person that has a sin that he has done. I'm going to give you a beautiful example. Want a beautiful example?
Sure.
So we know there's a mitzvah called, okay, Michelle, for you. I was going to say it anyway, but you get the credit.
You asked.
And we're not going to judge you based upon this one thing.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I feel much better now that I'm not going to be judged. You guys all follow me so far on the line? I hope so, yeah. So there's a very famous mitzvah. Famous mitzvah is v'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, which means you shall love your fellow the way you love yourself. And of course, there's 1,001 commentaries on understanding how could you love someone the way you love yourself. But one of the beautiful classic interpretations of this mitzvah is, and it's one of the most logical, by the way, too, is love someone else the way you love yourself. How do you love yourself? Do you define yourself by your mistakes?
Sometimes, yes.
Most of us have a healthy self-esteem. We know that we're good people that did something wrong. We automatically love ourselves for who we are, and then there's what we do. But hopefully we don't allow ourselves to be defined by something we did. Usually when we make a mistake, we don't say, I'm bad. We say, I made a mistake. If you would love someone else the way you love yourself would mean that when you see someone else making a mistake and you see someone else doing a sin, instead of saying, oh, you're a sinner, you say, you're a beautiful person that did a sin. That's the Chabad mindset. Even when we see a person doing a sin, we don't define them by the sin. You're a person, you're a beautiful Jew, you have a beautiful soul inside you, which you do. Even if you have a whole pile of sins that's falling out the trunk, you know what I'm saying? You can't close, there's so many sins the trunk won't close. And that's why the oversized SUV still won't close. Nevertheless, at your core, you're an engine, right? It's like, by the way, I'll give you a good example. Let's say you see a car full of, I don't know, pick something dramatic. Seltzer bottles. Okay? Perrier bottles of water. And the car is full with 1,000 bottles of water. Would you define the car as water? As bottles of water? No. So you would define the car by the engine that it has. And the fact that it's a car that can drive 100 miles an hour, especially if I'm driving and late to a class. Don't tell me. You don't define the car by what the car is carrying. You define the car by what the car is capable of, what the car is able to do, what the car is. The car is a car. The car is an engine. The car is a motor. The car is, that's what it is. It's an SUV. It's black. Even that's already getting into details. The fact that the car is overflowing with water bottles, that's not a definition of the car in any way. It's something that happens to be in the car now. But we all understand when you get to the synagogue and you unload all the bottles of water because you're buying water for the shul, now the car will go back to being a car. Didn't change. It was just something inside the car temporarily. The baggage we carry with us, and we're all carrying baggage. Every single one of us has a trunk with stuff inside it. Every one of us. Some of it smells better than others. Some of it stinks very bad, but we all have a trunk. And yet we have to realize that when we judge a person, don't judge by the trunk. Judge kol ha'adam. Judge the entirety of the person, all of him. What is he or she? Who are they in their core, in their entirety? And that's, you're going to judge them that way. Automatically you would see a side of merit, a side of righteousness because of the potential, the capability, the greatness that exists in this person. Make sense, my friends?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask you a question. By the way, on this you have so many stories. I'll just tell you one. It's a very classic, famous story about Stephen Covey, right? The author of 7 Habits to Highly Successful People. So he writes in his book that one of the few self-help books that I've read. So he writes in his book that he was once sitting on the train. He was very, very tired. It was a Sunday morning subway in New York. You know, people are quiet. This is before today. We're like the subway. Like I saw a video of someone doing like a seder in the subway. You saw that?
Yes.
Someone in the subway. Okay, fine. But you know, he's sitting on the subway Sunday morning. It's quiet. Everyone's reading their newspaper, doing their thing. Calm, peaceful, and all of a sudden a man and his 5 children enter the subway and chaos erupts. Instant chaos, like instant soup, instant chaos. And the children are loud and rambunctious, and in a second this calm, peaceful subway car became like he couldn't hear himself think. And the father sits down next to Stephen Covey, closes his eyes as if he's oblivious, as if he didn't bring any kids into the train with him. He's sitting on the train, his eyes are closed. He's like tired, relaxing, thinking, and the kids are jumping, and the kids are screaming, and 2 of the kids are fighting with each other. One's jumping from chair to chair. He's oblivious. And it's very difficult to sit next to the father who is not doing anything about his very, very wild kids and not get a little bit, irritated, a little hot under the collar. And I couldn't, just what Stephen Covey writes, he couldn't believe that this person was so insensitive to let his children run around wild like that and not do anything about it. And finally, after 5 minutes of this unbelievable patience and 5 minutes of he finally he can't restrain himself anymore. He turns to the guy and says, sir, your children are really making a lot of noise. Now I'm wondering if maybe you could control them a little bit better and do something about them, right? Yeah. The guy opens his eyes, says, I feel terrible, I'm sorry. They're probably making a lot of noise. We just came from the hospital and their mother passed away. And they don't know how to process all the emotions, and that's why they're all crazy. You can imagine how in a second, he went completely from one extreme all the way to the other. Because if you just look at what they're doing at that moment, they're jumping around on the chairs, they're making a lot of noise. But in truth, what are they really doing? They're processing in their own way a terrible tragedy. They don't even know how to process it. And this poor widowed man is on his own, struggling to process and to deal, and has no strength. So this, my still friends, is the story of don't judge till you know the whole story, till you're in their shoes. Don't judge till you know all of who they are. Okay. It's hard until you start looking with a different perspective. When you train yourself to see people by who they are and not by what they do, it becomes much easier.
How do you do that? How do you stop yourself from thinking like that? It's automatic. Practice.
So Sarah's question is an excellent question. How do you train yourself to see someone by who they are or who they could be and not by what they're doing?
Before the brain starts to already judge.
It's a good question. By the way, every Chabad rabbi has become experts at this. Every Chabad rabbi and Rebbetzin. One of the things that many people don't understand about Chabad, especially religious Jews, like how could you not see that they're sinners? Don't you see this guy is like, driving to synagogue and wearing pants and eating unkosher and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got to be an idiot. Do you not see? Right? And yet, it's not that we're pretending to be nice. We're trying to lure you in, got you, we'll pretend for a little bit, and then comes the sucker punch. No, the reason why people feel so welcome and so at home and so embrace the Chabad is because there's truly no judgment. People will know if they're being judged, and you're trying to sell them. You ever went to a gym to go try out? I want to go try the hyperbaric chamber. They start selling you. Right? You know when you're being sold. You know when the guy just trying to sell you on the package. And people know that in Chabad there's no judgment. It's an authentic embrace of the person. Why? Because we've been trained, and it's inculcated in the blood, in the milk of a Chabad child, to look at a Jew as an neshama, to see them as a soul, and to love them for their soul, and to value them for their soul. So the fact that they also do sin, that's the trunk. I don't judge cars by what's in the trunk. People always tell me I'm not a religious Jew. I'm going off subject, but it's a good question. It's an important question to address. People always ask me, I'm not religious, I'm conservative, I'm reform. And I always tell them, my standard line, labels are for shirts. Labels are for shirts. Ralph Lauren, for shirts. I have a soul, you have a soul. That's what we have in common. It's easy and it's natural to differentiate and to judge and to see what divides us. The famous story of the professor got up with a white piece of paper and on the piece of a white board. And on the bottom of the board was one little corner that was black. You know the story? It's a big board, big white piece of paper. And on the bottom of here was a little mark, a little scribble on the bottom corner. So he says to everyone, what do you see? And what do they see? Is there a pen in here? They see the scribble. Here, look. I'm going to show you something. Now I'm kind of giving it away, but look. What do you see? Your eye immediately goes to this. That's scribble. You're trying to figure out what is it, but you know it. Yeah, okay. So you should have a question. You're the one that asks the question. If you look at the white paper, what's human nature? We look for what's unusual. Again, that's part of our defense mechanism. I already mentioned earlier, we all have an inherent defense mechanism that helps us to defend ourselves. So if everyone's sitting and one person jumps up, in a second, my eye will see that one person jumping up. It's an inbuilt defense. So we notice the things that look out of place, that are unusual.
But I was thinking
because you already know where I'm going, because I kind of already set the stage. I once just had a Chamber of Commerce event. I spoke at a Chamber of Commerce. So a non-Jewish crowd. I came with a big, the V-fold, in science fairs. Trifold board. It was a big board, and I took a black marker in one area, I made a big circle. Look that big of a circle. It was a big room. I was 100 people. And I asked them, what do you see? That's how I started. What do you see on the board? I didn't tell them,
black circle.
They see a black circle. A few people actually knew what I was going to say, because I didn't make this up. It's a very famous thing in psychology. But the point is, it's human nature to see what's dangerous, what divides us, what separates us. And so naturally, people right away look for a sense of belonging in their group, in the sense of, you're different than me. I'm conservative, I'm religious, and you're not religious. Or I'm Jewish, and you're not Jewish. So you feel this immediate sense of separation or closeness. It could be the closeness also. We feel a certain safeness, in my own, and excluding you. It's a certain sense of community and safety, protection. That's how the Holocaust, if you want to get into the whole idea of how Germans could do what they did, one of the It's a very, very fascinating book in psychology called The Wave. Whatever, and there's a certain sense that comes with it. Yeah.
I don't want to be morbid, but when Holocaust came, we knew that happened, of course. But the Nazis did not say, "Are you reformed, conservative, orthodox?" They took us all.
Correct, of course. The Nazis didn't care what label you had.
That's a perverse opinion.
Sure, that's what Eli was.
But the truth is, what's the difference?
We're all the same. Elie Wiesel has a beautiful line. Elie Wiesel says that the Germans search for every single Jew with hate, and the Rebbe search for every Jew with love. Of course, all Jews are Jews, but that's what I'm saying. We've been taught to see a Jew as a Jew. End of sentence. A car is a car. What's in the trunk of the car is irrelevant. Problem is, you have many cars, and they start defining by themselves. But what's in the, I parked on this side of the street, so I'm an odd car, and you parked on the even side of the street, so you're an even car. Just because you went to a Reformed synagogue doesn't mean that your identity is that.
Well,
That means something you've done.
People do, they say that they have reformed, conservative, whatever they want. But it should not define the person.
Correct. So the answer to the question, Sarah's very good question, was how do we train ourselves to not automatically judge people by what they've done, and rather to judge people by who they are? And the simple answer is to start changing the way we see people. See them as people. Don't see them as transactional creatures that are doing certain things. See them as people. And in fact, as I'm going to say if I get the time, we'll do it this way, and I hope I get time for the other thing then. See them by the potential of who they could be. I want to tell you an amazing story of the Gemara. I'm going straight to the Gemara because I want to have time for the next things here. If you go to the Gemara in Sukkah 52a, here in the Gemara on page 52 of the Tractate Sukkah is a story, interesting story. I'm going to read the story rather quickly. And on the commentary, I'll tell you the story and I'll tell you the message. Now I'll get to the most fascinating history. We'll do both. I'll do both. We'll do it quick. It says a story over here. It's talking about how a person that sins has a great Yetzer Hara. And the greater a person is, the greater is his desire to sin. The more he studies Torah, the more the Yetzer Hara comes to seduce him. Right? The more you do good, the more the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is motivated to try and seduce you. So it brings like a story of Abaya, who was a great rabbi, who once heard a certain man say to a certain woman, "Let us rise early and go on the road. We're going to go for a journey together, me and you." Unmarried, not married, I'm saying man with another woman, let's go traveling together. Hearing this, Abaya said to himself, "I will go and accompany them and prevent them from violating the prohibition that they certainly intend to violate." You're going to have this man and woman traveling alone. They're going to be on the road, on the hotel. Let me go. I'll protect them. So he goes after them for a distance of 3 parcels in the marsh among the reeds. For 3 parcels, a long journey. He's hiding in the reeds and they're walking on the road, abandoned, deserted for 3 parcels. They're alone. And when they're finally taking leave of each other at the end of the whole day, he heard that they were saying, "We traveled a long distance together and the company was pleasant company." We had a good time. Thank you. Innocent. 100% an innocent journey with 0 improper behavior between the two of them. Now, Abaya says to himself, he's honest. If I would have been in that situation, if it would have been me traveling with a woman alone a whole day, or 3 parcels, maybe even more than a day, that distance all alone, nobody there to see me, I don't believe I would have been able to restrain the temptation to take advantage of the moment. Very pretty woman, a beautiful woman. Maybe she had a rabbit. I don't know. I don't believe I would have been able to restrain myself from sinning. At that moment, he went and leaned against the doorpost. It says the entrance to the yeshiva. He didn't want to walk inside. He felt so bad about himself. He felt this unreligious person or unscholarly person is able to travel a whole day with a pretty woman and do nothing. And me, a rabbi, a scholar, a holy person, I just see the woman traveling with someone else and already I'm getting tempted and I'm getting excited and I'm getting full of fantasies of what I would have done if I would have been with her. And he's leaning on the doorpost, feeling like a worthless failure, emotionally unable to enter back into the yeshiva to go back to study. At that moment, says the Gemara, a certain elder came and taught him. You know what he taught him? Kol hagadol mechavera yitzte gadol himenu, which in English means anyone who is greater than another, his evil inclination is greater than his. Meaning, you know why your Yetzer Hara was fighting you even more? Your desire to sin was greater than that simple person traveling with that woman? Because the potential and the desire for sin is directly commensurate or equal to the potential for greatness. You know, some of the most, not some, almost all of the most, I have to say, I say this nicely. Some of many, let's say, I'll say it differently. I'll say many of the greatest talented people in our country have the most messed up lives, right? Now, there's many ways of explaining why this is, but on a very simple level, because the greater talent you have, the greater danger you have. The more artistic you are, the more creative you are, the more nuts you are. Thank you. You said it, not me. the more. Someone was asked us. So the person that's I know who's very, very talented. Now, it can be a very talented person. But to hire this person is very dangerous because although they're very, very talented and very good at what they do, dealing with them is also a talent. And as I say, he's very talented, but his talent expresses itself and also be very, very difficult.
But aren't we judging them? We're
No.
judging them because they're so creative and a genius in art.
This wasn't judging based. This was on my own personal experience having worked with this person. The point is, this is a reality. This is truth to. Let me say this. No. You can never say anything with nothing is absolute. Of course, every rule has the exception to the rule. But as a general rule, I believe that it's safe to say that there are people that are more mediocre in talent and in craziness or in ability to become messed up in their lives and end up, in drugs and very often the people that do end up in dark places are the brightest kids, the smartest kids, the most talented kids. And because they have such talent, because they're so smart, because they have such creative genius, because they have such a oomph and desire to live a full, meaningful life, is sadly why they can't do that. They end up in the worst situations. I am telling you that prison is full of some of those genius people you'll ever meet in this country. Some of them are just total, nut job, crackpot, whatever. But a lot of them, some of them, are brilliant people who just were too smart or too talented for a regular existence. This is what the Talmud is saying. The reason why your temptation for evil is greater is because your potential for greatness is greater. And this is a truth statement. Again, with exceptions, but on there's absolute truth. I've seen this in so many of the people I've interacted with. So let's apply this to what we're saying about judging people. You see a person doing a sin. You see a person behaving in a way that's inappropriate. Seemingly it's unapprovable or unforgivable. If you judge all of the person in their entirety, you'll understand, why they have this desire to behave in a bad way? Because in their entirety, in their potential, they have a greater potential for greatness. They have a greater longing for holiness. You have two kids, and one kid rebels against the system. They rebel against Judaism, for example. Another kid, whatever, they don't care. They just go through, okay, you want me to do bar mitzvah? Let's do it. They want to sit the seder, okay, I'll sit. They don't excel and they don't fight. Why does a kid that rebels often, again, it's not like always, but very often, why the kid rebels? Because he could be so great, because he has such a deeper spiritual sensitivity. That's why when they don't find fulfillment in whatever they're being taught, they rebel against it. This person that's sinning is sinning because there's so much potential within them that hasn't yet been maximized and capitalized and focused. And because their talents have not yet been properly directed, that's why now they're doing all these crazy things. That's why they're hanging out and doing these dangerous behaviors. So not only should we not judge them by what's in the trunk, I'll tell you more than that. Judge them by the engine under the hood. If you really know how to judge people, you look under the hood. You don't need to be a mechanic or have any wisdom to look into the trunk. To open the trunk, you see how to push a button on the remote control. To open a hood requires a little bit of education, a little bit of knowledge. You gotta know what you're looking at, right? But if you know what you're looking at, you open the hood, you say, oh wow, this is a V8 engine, it's not a V4 engine. This is a turbo 4,000, I don't know, 100 horsepower. I've been making it up now. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's not this is a Ferrari. This is a race car. It's not an old, Hyundai, I don't know. It's meant to go. And because it's meant to go, that's why right now it's kind of going the wrong way. And it's not an excuse. But it's telling you that when you judge by the potential. Judge by what could be. Judge by the engine under the hood. Not by the bottles of water under the trunk. Understand, my friends? Okay. I want to tell you one last fascinating, amazing point. I told you earlier tonight that always the rabbis that teach us a teaching these are not just their teachings. It says, Hu HaYomer. He used to say, this was a teaching that they would say often. This was a teaching by which they were known by. Every rabbi has the things he's known. He always talks about this talk. I have things I always talk about. They resonate deeply within me. Their ideas. I can talk about many ideas, but there's certain ideas that just resonate within me. Yeshua ben Pirkei resonated with these three teachings that he taught. Make a teacher, have a rabbi for yourself, acquire a friend for yourself, and judge everyone with the side of merit. Why did this resonate so strongly with him? So, my friends, there's a story in the Gemara about Rabbi Yeshua ben Pirkei, the rabbi that taught us this teaching to judge everyone favorably. And do you know what the story is? It's a story in the Gemara. It's on page 107. It's in the text. And very briefly, the Gemara is saying about when you judge people, when you push away people, don't push them away too harshly. And they bring it, turn the page over, the second side. And it tells us a story about Yeshua ben Pirkei, where when King Yana was killing the sages, he had to run away to Alexandria of Egypt. We're going to skip all the interesting historical details, but basically he ran away to Egypt because the king wanted to kill him. I told you he lived in a very, very difficult time in history. I want to show this. At a time when the rabbis were in tremendous threat, both externally and internally, he had to run away. Eventually, Shimon ben Shattach was the brother-in-law of the king, sent him a message, it's safe to come back, a hidden message. He starts traveling back from Egypt back to Israel. And on the way, he came to an inn, and there the innkeeper's daughter, or his wife, treated him with a lot of honor. And so Yeshua ben Pirkei wanted to give a compliment. So he said, how beautiful is this inn? How beautiful is this inn? And the student said to him, but my teacher, the eyes of the innkeeper's wife are narrow. You're calling her beautiful. She's not beautiful. She has ugly eyes. He was giving a compliment about the inn, like in a very generic, giving a compliment to the woman for good service. And the student took it in a very superficial, almost like sexual way, and took it as a compliment about the body of the woman that was serving them. So you're calling her a beautiful woman. Look how ugly her eyes are. She's not beautiful. So the rabbi was very upset that his student would take a compliment, make it such a crass, crude. There's a word for it that when males make fun of women's bodies, not make fun, they judge women by the body. There's a word, I don't know what it is in English, whatever. Judging in such a misogynistic way, whatever. I don't think that's the right word, but judging the woman by her eyes and not by her actions. That he became very, very angry. And he said to the student, do you involve yourself with regard to that matter, the appearance of a married woman? She's a married woman. What are you judging her eyes for? And her body and her shape? And he ostracizes him from the students. The student was very, very depressed and sad that his teacher had sent him away. So he came before Yeshua ben Pirkei several times. And he said to him, accept my repentance. And each time that he said, accept my repentance, the teacher, Yeshua ben Parachia, ignored him because he felt that his request for forgiveness was not sincere. Finally, one day, Yeshua ben Parachia was reciting Shema, and the student came to him again to ask for forgiveness. And this time, Yeshua ben Parachia felt that it was a sincere request, that when someone asks 3 times, you should forgive them, even if he already asked. I mean, the fact that he kept on coming back meant that he really sincerely felt bad for what he had done. So Yeshua ben Parachia intended to accept his request. The problem is, in the middle of the Shema, you're not allowed to talk. You're not praying to God. So he motioned with his hand to the student to wait till he finishes praying, and then he'll accept him and forgive him. When he made a motion with his hand to his student, the student misinterpreted his action as a rejection. And he was already feeling rejection because he'd been rejected before, so I can understand why he felt rejection. So he took the hand motion of his teacher, was wait a minute till I finish, as, leave me alone already, go away, I don't know. And so he did not understand the signal. He thought, my teacher is driving me away. He went and stood upright to serve as an idol, and he bowed to it. Now after that, Yeshua ben Parachia tried to get to repent. He says, too late, I've lost my chance. And this man went and became a tremendous sinner. That's the story that's printed in the regular version of the Talmud. Now, the regular version of the Talmud does not say the name of the student. Do you know why it doesn't say the name of the student? Anyone know why it doesn't say the name of the student?
They found another religion.
No, in those days, the Talmud went through censors. Living in Europe, when the Talmud was printed like any Jewish book, there were Christian censors that oversaw every single published book, and many, many things had to be taken out of the Talmud, etc., out of the prayer books. Certain lines were added back later in the Leinu. They were taken out because of the censor that were not allowed to print. It wasn't freedom of press. And so for hundreds of years, there were things that were not printed because of Christian censorship. But there's a book called Chesrei Neis Hashas, which brings all of the different things that was printed. You can talk about in the upcoming JLI course. By the way, just a promo for the upcoming JLI course, we're going to talk about some stories of converts, etc., that were not known their names because of Christian censors that was eventually printed in this book. They printed all the things that were not printed because of the censors. And in this book, it says the name of the student of Yeshua ben Parachia. You know what the Chesrei Neis Hashas says was the name of the student of Yeshua ben Parachia, who was rejected, and when the teacher wanted to forgive him, he took it the wrong way, thought he was rejected for good, and went and started a new religion. Yeshu HaNotzri. Jesus. Yeshu. The Nazarene. Nazarite, whatever, Nazarene. And that's why of all the rabbis, the one that said, be careful to judge. Be careful when you judge someone, was a teacher that had been the one responsible for one of the rabbis of the yeshiva leaving Judaism and starting a new religion because of a harsh judgment he gave for a student for making an improper statement that he took too harshly, and he judged him too much for it. Instead of saying, look at his potential, look at his greatness, look at what he could become, instead he judged him on the moment on what he did, and later he regretted it. And therefore he was a rabbi that taught us, be careful before you judge someone for what they say. Be careful before you judge someone for what they did one time. Rather judge all of them in their entirety and understand who are they, to be able to interact with them as they, as a human being, need to be interacted with. Good night, my friends. These are all, wow, I was right, huh? Yes. Okay, God willing, next week, same time, same place, just the next chapter, we will choose. I already had an idea, not remember what was my idea for next chapter. Oh, I don't remember now offhand, but I have it. No, I didn't say. I didn't go through all 6, right? I did go through chapter 2 on the holiday at a time. I went through chapter 2, and there was one that I picked. And I don't remember what it was. Anyway, it's fine. Okay, my friends, good night. Good night, good night. I'm glad you all enjoyed. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Corrine. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Stephanie. My Pesach was excellent, was amazing. Baruch Hashem was beautiful. Thank you for supporting Israel. Greetings to the IDF. Can you guide me to get along? Awesome. World is asking a question, someone's going to harm you. Of course, you need to guard yourself from harm. conversation immorally is not if you need to protect yourself from being harmed. The question is judging a person, not for defense, for the sake of judging. That you have to be very, very careful to do. Hiding my Pesach was excellent. Thank you for asking. Alan is 100% correct. One moment of a person is not the person. That's correct. Alan, you got it on the nail. Thank you, Carmen. Have a blessed week. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. B'ezrat Hashem, same time, same place.